Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon, what? Pickups.
Hey everybody, this is me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We are thrilled to death you are listening to our show. I'll say it again because it feels so good coming out of my mouth. The Guitar Knobs podcast. Tony, what do we do on the show?
Well, we like to talk to, I guess builders and movers and shakers in the world of boutique gear. That would include guitars and amps and pedals and accessories and all sorts of fun things. We get the story behind the story.
That's right.
Yes. And on this week's show, who do we have on the line?
Hey, this is Josh Forrest from Treetone Guitars.
Where are you calling from?
Calling from Connecticut.
Ew.
How long did it take? So you lived there all your life?
I have.
So you haven't had to try to learn how to say that word?
No, it just
Connecticut?
came naturally.
Yeah. It's brilliant. I like that.
Can you say solderless?
All right. Anyways,
Folderless?
Oh, boy.
it's the gag that keeps on giving. So, hey everybody, we're gonna have an awesome show. We are all four of us remote. It keeps getting more remotey and remotey.
Yes.
And we have given up offerings to the internet gods to let us get through this show, and hopefully we come out alive. Hopefully you enjoy it. We've got Josh from Treetone Guitars. He makes some mighty fine guitars. Where can they go see your stuff? Just real quick, like.
Easiest place would be treetoneguitars.com. On the old Instagram at Treetone Guitars.
Yes.
Trying to keep it simple.
Brilliant. All right, go and do that. Since nobody's really driving around or going anywhere, you can do this. I know it.
Exactly.
You're probably already sitting on the toilet looking it up right now going, oh. But I don't know why you make that sound, but
Well, you're on a toilet.
I guess so, yeah. Anyways, so we've got just a couple things to get through in the way of announcements. First of all, Tony or Jared, do you have anything before I just launch into this tirade of mine?
No, let's hear you launch into the. Oh, I'm sorry, Jared. I didn't mean to speak for you, but you have my permission to launch.
Thank you. So, just to let everybody know, Tony and I are still open for business.
Allegedly.
Yes, I am still open for business. My shop is at my home, and as long as the the post office is going, so am I. So
is that a corona cough?
That is not a corona. I just had some cornbread cough.
Yeah, no, that's every time he opens his mouth. I got a whole box full of them in my edit pile.
Yeah, man, they're special. No, so and I am running a discount as well. The code word is home, and you get 15% off.
Whoa, hey.
Take
You don't
advantage
even
of
give
that.
us 15% off. That's awesome.
Does that apply to wholesale pricing too?
No.
No.
Tony, you get the best price in the universe. So.
I'm sure I do.
Yeah. Let's see here. We want to thank Rode Mics for providing our mighty fine equipment that we are all using in separate places. Our usual table looks like a overpicked garage sale right now back at the studio. So we want to thank them for the Rodecaster Pro, this awesome machine that's making this happen, and the Procaster mics.
I love them.
Mm-hmm. Mine is actually currently set up on an amplifier stand, an articulated amplifier stand that for whatever reason has a microphone screw at the top. It's like this. It's like a tripod that leans back. And it has like two arms that fold out, so you can put your amp on it and point it up to your belly button instead of your ankles. It's kind of cool. I just realized that my microphone stand is at Jared's house. So,
Jared. See, you need one like me. I have one that.
Oh, you mean like mine?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll give you this one back eventually. Probably when all the coronavirus.
You need one like me. This one's great.
No, yeah. So I have this mic stand that I have, and what I noticed with your mic stand that I have, Todd, is that the weight of the microphone eventually, the arm creeps all the way down. You know, within a few days. But I have an old
In a few
school,
days. What?
Yeah, it just creeps down because of the weight of the microphone. It's weird.
Yeah, well, don't leave it up for a few days.
I won't.
Okay.
I'll put it down this time manually. However,
why don't you get one of the ones like they have at boxing ring? Come down in the middle from the ceiling.
Let me talk. I have an old school one, and it's got a weight on the other end of it, like a big, heavy weight.
Yeah.
Wow.
You could, bash through a windshield with that thing.
I like when they did it on Bugs Bunny and the old Miles Lane little character, the little bald guy with the big head comes in and that mic drops down. Ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
That's so great. All right. We got one more little thing here. Want to give a shout out to Steve Keys, one of our executive producers, one of the newer ones. He says, hey, Knobs, you run a pretty great podcast and I'm happy to help out. I asked him a couple questions, and he shot me over his gear of choice. I said, what is your main gear of choice? So he says, right now, it's my PRS SE Custom 24 with a Floyd, or his 18 Les Paul Classic. On to his rig, he hits the... So this is everything else he's using. The Lawrence Petros Design LPD Gila Fuzz. And it's not
like
Gia.
Gia.
Well, it's only one L here.
Oh, so that's Gila.
Or Gila.
Like a Gila monster?
The
Boss CS3. And the LPD, going back to that again, 87. An H9, so that's the Eventide H9. And the Exotic EP Booster.
Okay. Well,
finally, all that goes into his Marshall JCM 2000 DSL 40. Why can't Marshall just name stuff like Cougar, or like, I don't know. It's just so many numbers. It's like a German car or something. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right. So, hey, thanks, Steve, for supporting our show and for sharing that little tidbit. I'm sure there's somebody out there going, that sounds a lot like my rig. And now you guys can, be pen pals. Hey, everybody, we need to get into what is going on in our music world this week. Tony Baloney's going to start us off, and then we'll jump over to our man from Treetone Guitars.
Okay. Well, so whenever I'm feeling down or anxious, I always put on the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds.
Oh, yeah.
And
weird.
It lifts me weird. It just lifts me out of my funk. And so I've been listening to Pet Sounds pretty much nonstop this whole past week. And then, as part of my MO is I found some documentaries on the making of Pet Sounds that I've been watching.
They're so good.
I mean, it really is incredible. And just, what was going on in Brian Wilson's head was...
Yeah, like the walls had to have the right mojo or feeling going on. It had to have the right energy going on in the room. And if it didn't, he would just leave and come back another day. And the record company paid the bill anyway.
Well,
it was crazy.
I think ultimately it was worth it, but
yeah.
So that's been that. The Pet Sounds has been the soundtrack of my life here for the past week or so. But one cool thing happened this week. My landlord, who was also a guitar repair and builder
For your business.
Yes,
Landlord
for my business, gave me a call and said, "Hey, I'm cleaning out my shop," because he's kind of semi-retired. He's just focusing in on building acoustic guitars right now in his shop, but he had a full repair shop going at one point in time. So he called and said, "Hey, I've got this box of pickups that I'm going to throw away. Are you interested in them?" And I said, "Well, yeah, Tom, I would be interested in that." He said, "I don't know what's in there. It's just stuff that, we would take out and, replace and whatever." So we met up and I started digging through the box and Yeah, most of it. There, I mean, there were some old DiMarzio things. There was a lot of import pickups, some old Fender stuff. Not old Fender, but not great Fender stuff. But at the very bottom of the box was a pair of probably 70s Les Paul Deluxe mini humbuckers, still in the cream rings. And that was worth the price of admission right there.
Yeah, that's about $300 to $400, I think.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
people are spending that much on those. Huh?
Just for the rings.
Not. Well, no, not maybe not today, but when this coronavirus crap isn't around and the market is where it should be, we're looking at you could probably command at least $200 to $300 to $400 on a really good day.
You just doubled the price.
Yeah. Well, it depends who needs them.
It's $1 million. Well, maybe I need them.
If you get some guy that's restoring his old 1972 Les Paul Deluxe,
yeah,
and there's only one set on in between Reverb and eBay, they're going to pay $200 or $300 if they have plenty of money to spend. If they're just a collector, they have money laying around anyway.
Well, what if I just want to hold on to them?
Well, then you can make a box and frame them and do it out of pickguard material.
Ooh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
So just if I'm not super familiar, but is there like a metal plate that goes into the body that those things screw into?
Sometimes. I think there was in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a lot of crazy hardware that they had to add to those. And it depends what year it is, because they, sometimes they use these things called tinonim clips. And then sometimes they would solder tiny little nuts onto the
I think these have little nuts.
screws.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're soldered on there.
Yeah.
And there's washers and there's a spacer in there.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of hardware. It's a lot of tiny little pieces of hardware just to have those things in those frames, man.
Yeah.
And those are really cool too, because let me tell everybody here that those mini humbuckers in that era, in the Gibson era from the 60s when they started doing them in the early 60s to this, maybe even the early 80s when they were still using them, is those are smaller in diameter. They're slightly smaller in diameter as far as the pickup cover goes. So they're slightly smaller. If you took those pickups out that you have and you tried to put in a set of modern day pickups from Gibson or, a boutique builder like myself, you would have to modify those old rings to make them fit because they're slightly larger.
The price just went up.
Except if I'm pretty sure Seymour Duncan's covers are the old match up with the old size.
Yep, they do, but he's got his emblem on. If you don't mind the Seymour Duncan emblem,
right,
then have at it.
It's a nice emblem, right?
Yeah, of course it is.
It's got like an S with 12 pole pieces.
Oh, sure.
It's nice.
I mean, I like Seymour Duncan, but some people don't like emblems on their stuff, and some people do. Yeah. I don't like the emblem on that, but if it were on my guitar, but I like him. So don't get that shit mixed up.
Easy now.
All right. There goes our rule.
Right out the door.
Yeah.
So that's so that in a nutshell, that was one very cool thing that happened this week in spite of all of the Coronaville stuff.
All right. Well, let's head on over to Josh.
Yeah, so my guitar world, one good thing about this whole coronavirus stuff is I've kind of been locked up at home for a while. The reason why that's good, that sounds a bit weird, but the reason why that's good is I've actually been able to play guitar, which, nowadays I really don't get to do very often. Between my day job and then coming home and building the guitars, squeezing that in as much as I can, I don't get much time to play. So I've been playing a lot more guitar.
What's your day job?
I work at a university in an IT department. So I do that full time, and then pretty much any free time I get outside of that is spent on the guitars.
That's very cool.
Nice.
Thanks. Yeah. So I've been, playing more guitar. I found an old hard drive full of old demos from my last band. Kind of been going through all those, reworking those a bit, which is pretty sweet. It's stuff that I haven't touched in, I don't know, like 2-3 years at least. Sometimes older than that. And another cool thing, I actually got. You guys ever heard of the Two Notes Torpedo Captor? It's,
No.
No.
it's kind of a ridiculous name, but pretty much what it is, it's a load box for your amp. So for home recording, it's been pretty amazing. So pretty much you can take the output of your amp, instead of going into a speaker cab, you go into this Two Notes Torpedo Captor. And that was XL into your audio interface and straight into your computer. So
I had a Red Box. I forget the company name. Might have been Red Box. I don't know, but it was something similar.
was it red?
It was indeed red.
Of course.
But it was the same type of thing where it took your speaker output and then rerouted it back through, but somehow must have pulled the signal off to XLR or to headphones.
Yep. Yeah, definitely similar. The big thing with the Two Notes thing is they give you their plugin. It's called Wall of Sound, and it's loaded with tons of different cabinets with different IRs of different speakers, cabinets themselves. You get to, place microphones on different parts of the speaker and move it around. It's pretty incredible the sounds you get out of it, honestly. I previously had been recording at home. I made like a homemade isolation cabinet for my little orange 112 cab. And I was just micing that up with a 57, getting some pretty good tones without blowing out the rest of the house. But since I got this Torpedo Captor, I've completely ditched the load box. Or I'm sorry, I ditched the ISO cab. So
what does something like that run? Do you know?
I got it used on Reverb for like $150. It was a heck of a deal. I think they're like $2 something usually. They just came with a new version, which has like a headphone out and whatnot that mine doesn't have. But
So how's that different from an aux?
It's exactly the same thing. I think the Two Notes thing was out before the aux was ever around. But it's very similar to the aux, and it's incredibly cheaper.
Yeah.
It's not. It's also
especially if you have two of them.
Oh, somebody's got two auxes.
They would be oxen.
I have a herd. I have a herd of ox. I use them for NAM.
Nice. Yeah, one's just not going to cut it at NAM. Everybody knows
No,
that.
you got all your single coil pickup on one side and all your humbucker stuff on the other.
Pretty smart.
I like that.
Yep. Could you try
on one side?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that way you got more than one person trying it out. No, you don't really have a line or, people waiting.
Could you take the output from your first aux and then input it into the second aux and then do that?
Not hear it? Probably.
Yeah, crazy.
Maybe you need a third one. I think you should probably get
I think that would make the most sense. Maybe a fourth.
Give me like a 4-page essay on why I need 3 or 4, and I'll consider it. And make sure it's in triplicate.
Jared.
Yeah, so
what's going on in your music world this week, Jared?
Oh, yes.
Hey, Jared.
So yes.
What's going on in your music world this week?
Right. No, things have been going pretty good business-wise for the circumstances. And I got a really great message the other day from one of our listeners of the podcast, and he actually listened to this past podcast about how are we handling this epidemic and all that kind of thing, and what are we going to do while we have the spare time and whatnot. So he said, "Hey man, I love the podcast. I just finished up this last one," and he actually gave me a reference and gave me some info on a guy that built him a pedal that switches all of his amps for him. And I think I think the picture he sent me had like 8 buttons or something like that.
Wow.
So when you say, is that like switching cabinets or actually just the input going to?
Pretty sure the input.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like that's what like the Delisle makes, right?
Well, but
yeah,
Delisle
it wasn't Delisle.
was-
It was somebody else. It was a different name, and I couldn't. Actually, I can bring it up who it is. I guess it wouldn't hurt.
Ouch! It's hurting.
So I had to take a screenshot so I can zoom in on this because I think he messaged me through a thing where you couldn't do that. It's called Smokin' Amp. That's what the pedal says, Smokin' Amp, and
it's what you don't want to see when you're using the pedal.
This has 6, and it's called JCM. Oh, well, no, it's called Smokin' Amp, and he's got labels of. I mean, I guess the fellow that sent me this picture, put his own labels on which button is which. But he's got a JCM 800, he's got a Class 5, he's got a Lead 100, a Lead 12, a Bass 12. It's pretty awesome. Huh. So I just want to thank him for the message. I don't know his actual name. His name is AGEMME27.
All right.
I don't know how the heck he said that. So.
He sounds nice.
Yeah.
He's a really nice dude, man. He offered that information up for me.
I think he's a spy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But
that definitely sounds like a code name.
I like him.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. Well, you got to work something out. As we mentioned, you do need some sort of solution there, or a few solutions.
So thank you very much, awesome listener guy. We really appreciate it. So.
Yeah.
No, it really feels good when people reach out and help us out with those kind of things.
Oh, yeah,
we do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Todd.
Yes, sir.
What's going on in Jared's world this week?
Well, a couple things. Let's see. Remember how I put that new badge on my amp? I did the 3D printed amp. 3D printed amp. There you go. That's something. So I took off the Supro badge. And nothing against Supro. I like my Supro, but I like to customize stuff. I realized I was like, this is kind of smallish. It's about the same size as a Supro, but our band logo it just looked a little smaller. So I hit up my drummer and I said, hey, can you make me one like an 1.5 inches bigger, like all the way around? He was like, yeah, let's go bigger than that. So he printed out.
Now you need 2 cabinets to put the logo on.
Yeah, it's going to look so much cooler. And I'm using the I guess it's the mirror metallic paint that you gave me, Tony, because I was using like a gold, like a proper gold. But I think having that sort of mirror finish on it, it's not going to be a total mirror because it's not like totally ultra smooth. Although I have had to that's one of the things about 3D printed stuff is like it comes out and it looks like it's still made out of plastic string. So you have to work with it a little bit to get it nice. When I pop that thing on, this thing's going to look awesome. So
excellent.
Yeah, so that's
how much big is it? Like twice as big as the one that you had, or
it's about twice as big. It's cool. It's gonna look great. So
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, me neither. I'm working on it this weekend. Anyway, so there you have it. Let's do this.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
Okay. Josh Forrest, Treetone Guitars, give us your 4 on the floor.
Let's do it.
All right. Number 1, full tone OCD.
Yes. That one's never been on the show before.
No, I'm sure. Yeah, very unpopular pedal.
Exactly.
So that guy currently is kind of my always on pedal, actually. I set the drive real low. It just kind of gooses the front end of the amp. Pop the volume up a bit, and it just sounds nice.
What kind of amp are you going into, by the way?
So I went through a lot of orange heads in the past. Started with the Tiny Terror. What do you get after the Tiny Terror? You get the Dual Terror. And then, anyway, I got an OR50 after that, blah, 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 blah. I don't have those amps anymore. I'm literally just running an Epiphone Valve Junior that I modded a little bit. So it's not completely stock, but it's a super bare bones cheap amp. And it needs a little something on the way in order to kind of get the character out of it that you want. Otherwise, it's a little stale. So, that OCD gives it that character it needs, and a little bit of hair, but it's almost clean, you know?
Is that a real bright sounding amp?
Exact opposite, actually. It's super dark.
Real dark, like a box.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was brighter, actually. That's most of the mods that I've done were to get a little more gain out of it and brighten it up a bit, which has helped, but I mean, it's still a $99 amp, you know? Yeah.
Well, the reason I ask was that so I have an OCD, and what I found is that it sounds so thick and like almost like overly warm to the point where it's like it's almost like a blanket.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Does yours sound like that?
Have you tried that little switch on the top?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
High HP, LP, high pass, low pass.
Yeah.
I think. I tend to get a lot more high end when I've got that flipped up I think it's HP when it's flipped up.
Yeah.
Cuts through then.
Yeah, it definitely cuts through. It gives it way more gain too when you do that.
Yeah.
But I literally keep the drive on that guy down all the time. I never used to use the OCD that way. I used to use it, with the orange amps that I had, I would have, some gain on the amp already. And that would just be kind of like taking it over the edge sort of pedal.
Yeah.
Just like a solo boost or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely come in handy. It's probably my favorite pedal now, being that it's literally on all the time.
Right on, man. What's number 2?
Number 2. All right, we're getting into a little delay here. Delay's been big for me for a while. This pedal I actually don't have anymore, but I kind of wish I still had it. Mm-hmm. It's called the Love Pedal Gen 5 Echo.
Okay.
It's an analog delay. You don't see him very often. I think, oddly enough, it was like a Musician's Friend Guitar Center special way back when.
You mean like one of the ones that they kind of do themselves?
Like it was made by Love Pedal specifically to be sold at those stores. Yeah. So I went in one day. One of the other guitarists in my band at the time had that MXR carbon copy, and all intentions were to go in and get a carbon copy because all I wanted to do was set those knobs all the way up and get that crazy feedback oscillation for like trippy parts of songs and whatnot. Which, analog delays are great for. So I went in for a carbon copy, and then they had this Love Pedal Gen 5 Echo. I plugged into it. I was like, oh, this is cool. Analog Echo. It's nice. But the thing that really sold me was it has, which you don't see too often, it has this little trim pot on the top for a boost. So pretty much you can use it as like, if you're going into a solo or something and you're putting the delay on, it's putting delay on as well as giving you a little kick with the boost. So your volume goes up, you hit the amp a little bit harder, saturates a bit more, and you've got that echo on there. And being that it's a analog echo, it's got a sweet slapback sound. So yeah, kind of a unique pedal that you don't see too often. But yeah, I don't have it anymore. Wish I still had it.
Oh well.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I'm not real familiar with that one, but
I'm not either.
Okay,
there you go.
Let's scour the internet now.
Yeah, they're super cheap now. They're like always under $100 on Reverbs.
Really?
So I should just
Not
probably
anymore.
scoop one up. Yeah, that was
they
it.
were under $100.
It's like those mini humbucker pickup rings now.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you got for number 3?
Number 3, we got the Line 6 DL4 digital delay workstation, I think is what they call that guy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm sure it's been on the show before. It's a pretty darn popular pedal, or at least it used to be. But you're still seeing it on boards nowadays. But I remember, maybe about a decade or so ago, they were on everybody's board. Everyone had a DL4. Yeah. And back then I didn't have one. I probably got this DL4 probably like 5 years ago. So I was way late on that one. But anyway, digital delay. So it's got a different flavor compared to the Love pedal. That being said, though, it models like every great delay there's ever been. So you can get just about any sound out of it, even though it's a digital pedal. I usually kept mine. So, I've got the 3 presets on those. So my first preset would just be a slapback delay. Second preset would be an analog delay with a longer decay. And then third preset, which is probably the one I use the most, was just a straight up digital delay. But what was big for me was the tap tempo. I never had a delay with a tap tempo before that one. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was a super musical thing. Once you start tapping in your tempo, it kind of changes the way you play, at least with the delay on. So that became kind of vital for one of the bands I was playing in at the time.
Interesting. I think Aaron Wall of AWOL has single-handedly repopularized that particular pedal with his powder coating.
Oh, that's right.
Madness.
Oh, yeah.
Pink powder coating.
I mean, seriously, it's like, well, up to that point, here's your big green monster, which
giant green pedal, yeah.
Yeah, and now, ta-da! It's a thing. It's a thing. That guy was smart.
They get kind of a bad rap for reliability, though. I will say that a lot of guys have issues with the switches on them, the actual foot switches. But yeah, being such a vital pedal for the band I was playing in, I did have a show where that pedal kind of went down on me.
Oh boy.
And I literally couldn't use it, so I didn't have that tap tempo delay for a song that kind of needed that tap tempo delay. Mm-hmm. But not to bring down the party. It's a great freaking pedal. But I do know, it does have its issues, but when it's working, it's a killer pedal.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very cool. How about your last one?
Last one, super simple. One of the most simple pedals out there. Electro Harmonix Holy Grail. The one I have is the little micro pedal, so it's super small. Just sits there at the end of the pedal chain. I use it always in the spring mode. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you know that pedal's got just the 3-way selector switch on it. So you've got, what is it? There's a
Hall, spring, and
go ahead, do it. Flurb.
Is the Flurb?
Oh, that's right. The Flurb.
Yes.
Yep. I got the same pedal.
Yeah, I love
mine's
it.
The
man.
larger kind because I have big feet.
Got to have the big pedal then, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I always use it in the spring mode. So it's just kind of got a vintage sort of reverb sound to it. Funny enough, though, my little toggle switch that switches in and out of the modes has been broken for years now. So you kind of have to fidget with it to get it to stick in one setting or the other, which is good if you only want to use it in spring mode. But every now and then it'll flip into the Flurb on me, and you'll know instantly. You're like, what the hell's that? What's going on in the trail there? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a solid pedal. You really can't go wrong with a single knob pedal, right?
There you go.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Not at all. Well, that's a pretty solid 4 on the floor, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Very cool.
Lots of delay and reverb, though. How about that?
Surprisingly, yeah. I mean, for me as a player, I honestly don't use delay and reverb all that much. I'm almost more of just a guitar straight into amp with a little bit of drive kind of guy. But you got to have your delay and reverb for a little flavor here and there.
For sure.
Nice.
For sure. Well, we appreciate you sharing that. We've got Josh Forrest of Treetone Guitars on the show, and we're excited to have him again. If you haven't yet gone to check out what he's making, you can head over to Treetone Guitars and also Treetone Guitars on Instagram. Correct?
That is correct.
Perfect. So I'm just gonna say I caught you when somehow or another. Because hey guys, we don't know there's so many builders and stuff that we still have to meet out there. Like I constantly been, hey, have you heard this guy? Have you heard of this guy? Have you heard of this guy? I'm like, Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So if you think that I should maybe contact somebody. If you think that the knobs should be having somebody that you know that you would love to hear from, send us the info just in case we don't know. But back to you, Josh. I believe it was there was now Tony's gonna kill me for this, but
Probably.
It's the Del Sol. I saw the white Del Sol, and it had the inky tortoise. That's the only way I know how to call it.
Yeah.
Inky tortoise.
Inky
Leopard
tortoise. Is that fair?
It's kind of like
most people call it leopard, but
Well, it was not leopard.
or prince tortoise.
Yeah, spotted tortoise, inky tortoise. To me, it looks like inky. Anyways, so the inky tortoise.
Okay.
And that's a beautiful guitar, man. I was like, dang, what's that? And I immediately got a hold of you. Yeah, that one did it for me straight out of the gate. And here's the thing: what we're talking about, it's not like you're not making, radical new designs that everybody's like, oh, what is this new thing? But what you seem to be doing and have done very, very well is taking something familiar and putting a little bit of a twist on it. And not too much to where it looks stupid. Just enough to make it be like, that's tasty.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you've noticed that. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing is not to make something that looks like it's from another age, Like I want it to look like an electric guitar at the end of the day. And most of us kind of have an image in our heads of what an electric guitar is supposed to look like. And most of that goes back to the good old days, the 50s and 60s when I'll just say it, Fender and Gibson came out with the big hitters, So yeah, I'm not trying to stray too far from sort of those plans that were laid for all of us, but definitely trying to put my own spin on things here and there.
Yeah, for sure. You've got some great models. I was
going to ask on that
ahead.
Del Sol. Is that do you have the control plate custom cut for that, or is that something off the shelf?
Yeah, no, that is a custom plate. All the designs that I come up with, I pretty much primarily use Adobe Illustrator for the actual designing of the body shapes and whatnot. And that one, for whatever reason, it just kind of called for its own control plate. Something that kind of fit the shape well, because nothing off the shelf was really doing it.
It looks awesome.
I think if you're using off the shelf control plates, especially, it will definitely keep your eye, tuned into whatever guitar that control plate originally was on.
Yeah.
So let's say I used a Jaguar control plate on that, you'd instantly be thinking, oh, well, this is a Jaguar ripoff or something,
Yeah. The one that I think people can get away with, because when people do use it, they tend to use it more creatively, is the classic, so you have on your Classic 3.
Yep.
So that's a Telecaster on what is definitely not a Telecaster, but you've got, it almost looked like a stretched Telecaster control plate, although I don't know if it is or not, but
it's funny, that one acts as just a straight up Tele style control plate.
Okay, there you go. What's interesting about the Tele plate that you have is that it doesn't look like it's supposed to be there. And when I think about how people are using Tele plates, because we know it exclusively for a Telecaster, whenever it's not on a Telecaster, it looks like it's not supposed to be there. But the interesting thing about some of the designs that you're doing and some older designs, even not only of guitars, but like cars and electronics, especially electronics, like way back in the day, is that they didn't, in certain instances, they didn't seem to work really hard on saying, hey, this should all feel like a totally homogenized design. They're like, yeah, that's where it goes, and then just put something there, right? And that's a one real interesting way to distinguish between modern designs, because modern designs, even when people are trying to make things look older, it's impossible for them not to say, that has to be perfectly spaced around the edge. Like everything is almost overly symmetrical. And we've mentioned this on the show before, but one of the reasons that like we love some of those old things is because they look kind of wonky, like like the pickguard on a Flying V or an Explorer. It's just like, what why'd you just square that off? You know, or like, why isn't it following the curve? Is it like, but it doesn't matter. That's what makes it kind of rock and roll. And that's a way that I have kind of distinguished some modern designs with older ones.
Is that Tony again?
Maybe he'll be back.
Who needs him? Yeah, so I'm actually a big fan of wonky kind of out there guitars as well. You know, I do like the classics, but I think the guitars from the 60s that were coming out of like Japan, like Teisco's or Teisco. I don't know how you say that one.
Teisco, like Seiko.
Is it Teisco?
Yeah.
All right.
Like
finally.
the shark fin and the...
Yeah, so there's definitely some inspiration from those kind of designs too. Another one that's pretty big is an Italian brand called Echo.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Oh, my God.
fiberglass bodies.
Yep.
Those guitars were so cool looking though.
I think they're
those
fiberglass.
designs- Are they really? I didn't even know.
Yeah, it's like some kind of plastic or I'm pretty sure it's fiberglass. My buddy Mark had one of those. It was awesome looking, but it was weird,
like super light, right?
weird to hold. Yeah,
I think Nationals were like that too. The Nationals with all the crazy wiring harnesses and all the weird pickup configurations and switches.
Yeah, I guess that was a thing. Fiberglass guitars. You know, you got the Jack White Airline stuff. Those were fiberglass. Supro, I think was doing some fiberglass.
Very lightweight stuff.
Yeah, it's lightweight for sure. I've never actually held one in person before, but yeah, I'd be interested to see what that's actually like. But yeah, so those wonk sort of design too, and just kind of try to integrate it all to make my own thing. You know.
very cool. So anyways, I just kind of like let the cat out of the bag with like, hey, that's the guitar that I gravitated towards. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 models right now. The Stella ST, the Del Sol, the Versa, the Songbird, and the Classic 3, all of which mean nothing if you're not familiar with these guitars or looking at the page right now. We're not going to belabor like going through and telling about every single model. We'll come back and touch on a couple things, but how does an IT guy decide to start building guitars?
Good question. It kind of started a while ago. It's been something I've been doing for a bit now. I mean, when I look back on it, almost from day one of playing guitar, I've been just kind of messing around with them. So, I mean, when I think about my first electric that I got in high school, it was like a Squier from a Squier Strat Pack. I was constantly trying to set that thing up to be, better than it was, messing with action, messing with a truss rod, pretty much doing stuff that I had no business doing at the time. I think probably in the first year of owning that guitar, I had already swapped out the pickups on it. But not knowing anything at the time, I just bought some cheap, crappy pickups off of eBay and put them in the Squier. So really, it wasn't an upgrade at all. It was more of just tinkering for the sake of tinkering, which I didn't know at the time. I was like, I'm going to put in these aftermarket pickups. This thing's going to scream. And they were totally shrill and terrible. But so, yeah, I mean, definitely been tinkering for a while. I owe a lot of it actually to my dad, I would say. So again, back in high school, I don't know how this came about, but he was like, why don't we build a guitar? I was like, cool. Yeah, I guess we could try that. I didn't know how it was going to come out. My dad kind of had a woodworking background, so he had all the tools necessary and all that good stuff. So I had I think I was taking a Photoshop class at the time in school. So I came up with a design. It was kind of like shrunken down version of a Fender Starcaster, like a hollow body guitar, which is a bit much for a first guitar build if you think about it.
It's ambitious.
It's a bit ambitious, yeah. I don't know what I was thinking on that, but again, just goes to show you I didn't know anything at the time, so it all seems like it's on the table, you know. So yeah, he did all the woodworking on that one. I came up with the design. He did the woodworking. You know, he built the body, again, a hollow body. I don't know how he just pulled that out and made it happen, but he did. We bought the neck for that one. Again, another eBay score, so it was nothing special. But I did all the wiring in that one, and again, a bit ambitious. I put all the bells and whistles in that thing, which was just a stupid idea. It was such a pain. You know, I did the push-pull pots and some toggle switches for phase in and out, and coil tapping the humbuckers we put in there. It was all too much, but at the end of the day, it was a working guitar. You know, it was something that I could actually pick up and play, which I kind of resonated with me. I thought that was super cool.
That's really good experience too, to learn how all that stuff works. You know,
Yeah, definitely.
Doing it is fun. And
Yeah,
learning
that
at
was the
same
thing.
time.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was a fun project. It exposed me to a lot of, you know, what I would get into later on. So I didn't continue building guitars at that point. I was too into just playing the guitar. All I wanted to do was play. So, you know, further on down the line, this is probably after college at some point. My wife and I bought a house. I realized, oh man, I got a garage here. I can actually I can do some fun stuff out here in the workshop. So I started messing around with some parts caster bodies and necks that I had laying around. And before I knew it, I was, you know, I had myself a bandsaw, router table, was cutting my own bodies and necks. I decided to make my first guitar from scratch at that point, which was kind of a Mustang style, which was a cool guitar. You know, scale neck. I think I had like G&L pickups that I threw in there just because it's what I had lying around.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. They're those MFD pickups. They're kind of interesting. Anyway, that guitar being my first one from scratch, I still have it, but it's not something I play ever. It didn't come out that great, you know. It was a learning experience. You got to start somewhere. But yeah, it all kind of spiraled out of control from there. Once you make that first one, you just want to do the next one even better. You know, you just want to get better at the craft itself. And I mean, even to this day, it's still the next guitar is the next opportunity to build an even better guitar than you ever have. So
it's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it's a bug. You know, once you've been bitten by the bug, it's hard to stop.
I wanted to compliment you on the pickup configurations that you're using on some of these. I really like the old school kind of Epiphone mini humbucker with the 3 and 3 poles. And the way you're having these, I don't know if you're doing them or having somebody else do them, but you have the chrome or the nickel frame around the black vulcanized fiber or plastic, and then you have the 3 poles. But I just wanted to say, you know, whoever's doing those and really good look on those guitars that you're doing. I think that's in those Gaia tones, the gold foils that you also use.
Yeah, yep.
Really, really cool looking on those guitars, man. Great job.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I mean, pickups are clearly a huge part of an electric guitar. So,
Sure.
I mean, debatably, yeah. But yeah, I mean, mainly I work with two different pickup winders. I think the one specifically you were talking about at the beginning there, with the pole pieces, are made by Tim McNelly. He's up in Canada.
I thought that was him.
Yeah, those are his Stagger Swaggers. So those things are super cool. I like to describe them as like a very single coil sounding humbucker, because literally that's how they sound.
He must not wind them very hot. I do. I could also, if you wanted to do like an all chrome or an all, you know, or an aged metal, they actually make those covers in metal covers. I didn't
yeah,
know
for
if you
sure.
knew that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I experiment a lot with P90 covers themselves. So, one thing that all my guitars so far have had are P90 size pickups, so soap bar size P90s. But they're not always actual P90s underneath those covers. So, those Stagger Swaggers, for instance, are soap bar size, but clearly not your standard looking P90 size pickup. And they don't sound like a P90 either, which is cool. And I've also done, let's see, I also work with Rob Banta, Gemini Pickups out of New York. He's kind of a mad scientist over there. He will wind just about anything I can think of and throw it into a P90 soap bar cover, which is awesome. It kind of gives a uniform look to all my guitars as far as pickups go. Even though the covers themselves might have a slightly different look to them, whether they have gold foil or their standard nickel P90 covers or their plastic. So yeah, Rob's done some crazy stuff. Those Guiatone gold foils were wound by him. They sound amazing. He's actually on that Del Sol with the spotted tortoise guard. That one had his dual buckers in them, so they're gold foil pickups, but they're humbucking. So he's actually the crazy thing with those too is you can switch from humbucker to single coil, and you don't lose any output. So you're not dropping in volume.
Must have done a 6 and 2 deal. Sure.
Yeah.
I think
2 or
he
3.
actually think he actually had three coils under every cover, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man. That's great.
yeah, it's really cool stuff. I'm really happy to be working with those guys. They definitely helped me take the guitars to another level for sure.
Well, speaking of other builders of things, I'm just curious, and if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to. But is there? Obviously you're pulling some historical references for your designs, but if we're thinking about builders out there that are inspiring to you, not necessarily inspiring to you to then go make a guitar that looks like that, but just who out there right now is like really doing it for you?
Oh man, there's a ton of great builders right now. I mean,
First
just
3
off
that
the
come to
top
your
of
mind.
my head. Okay, big one for me. They're kind of still in business. I forget exactly what's going on with these guys, but Ronin Guitars. They're out of California. You guys familiar with them?
I am.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Ronin,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, Ronin, Ronin. They build some really cool guitars. So some of the carved top ideas kind of came from some influence from those guys. Their guitars are just gorgeous. They do a lot with the gold foil pickups as well. Harvester out in Australia. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that guy.
No.
So yeah, that's Harvester. I think his name's Anthony. Again, killer guitars. Go look them up as soon as you can.
What about them are killer? Tell us, for those who can't look it up right now.
Yeah, I think he kind of does what I'm trying to do with taking classic designs, but also that with wonky design. And he did a good job of doing that well. You know, some things some people might think are a little over the top, but it's just enough to catch your eye, and you just remember those builds. I haven't had the chance to actually play one myself, being that he's from Australia, but they look like they would play great. They look like they would sound great. So I bet they do. A lot of people are digging them. But yeah, if you haven't, check them out. You'll see what I mean right away.
Yeah, definitely wonky.
Yeah, are you looking at them now?
I am, yeah. And I think it's interesting. One of the things that people might there's a couple go-to things if you're gonna go, walk on the wonky side of the street. I think layering plastics is like one of those things.
Oh yeah, he's done that for sure with his pick guards. Which
Yeah.
is, I don't think I've ever seen that on other guitars.
There's a couple. I mean, Tony knows for sure better than anybody who else is doing that. But I think that, and then also like use of Bakelite type materials, like on pickup covers or knobs, or like strange uses on the headstock, stuff like that, or another thing. Yeah, very cool stuff. So okay, so there, you got those first two. Give us one more.
One more. I think you guys had him on the show, actually. Abernethy Guitars from California.
Oh yeah.
I love what Justin's doing. Him and I think we share a love of offset guitars.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I failed to mention about my guitars is literally every design is offset in some way at the waist. I'm a sucker for Jazzmasters and Jaguars. And I just don't think there's anything cooler than an offset guitar, personally. And yeah, Justin's some cool set stuff on. He uses some of my favorite pickups too. He also does a lot with Gemini pickups as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to get a little bit more familiar with Gemini. It's like it's weird because we've had discussions about this. For whatever reason, there's always somebody on the line going, "How do you not know who that is?" That's the whole point of the show, is to get familiar with all of the people. So every time if you hear me say, "Geez, I don't know who that is," that's an opportunity, people, for another show, for Pete's sakes.
Yeah, the amount of builders out there is incredible nowadays. It's pretty nuts. There's people doing new things every day, all over the world, even not just here in the United States.
Yeah. So speaking of new things, what's in your near future?
Well, actually, just this week, I released my new Versa model. It's called, and that's kind of my take on, I guess, like the junior models from the 60s, 50s, and 60s, as well as like melding that with the student models from Fender. Mm-hmm. So think like Mustang or SG Junior kind of meet to make one guitar. That's kind of what the Versa is.
I like that because I don't like either one of those guitars, but I like yours.
Nice, I'll take it. Yeah. It was also my attempt to. I think my prices on all of my other models are pretty low already.
I mean, dude, it's ridiculous. People. Come on.
Yeah, those are good prices for boutique guitars, definitely.
Yeah,
very
sure.
affordable.
I mean, they're all handmade, and they're literally. I try to keep them under $2,000 as best as I can.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you can get like an American-made, assembly line guitar for around that same price, or you can get, something that's handmade for you.
This one's $12.99 for Pete's sakes.
So yeah, that Versa I'm trying to lower the price as, to still make some money as much as I can. Mm-hmm. But
you're not in it for the fame then? That's what you're saying?
Oh no, I am. Yeah. I'm definitely doing this for the fame.
I'm not doing it for either one, and it's working.
But yeah, so that one, it's got a thinner body than what I'm doing on all the other ones. It's actually under 1.5 inches. So
how do you like that personally?
I'm a big proponent of lightweight guitars, so I really like it. So I'm using mahogany on that one, mm-hmm. which is notoriously a super heavy wood to mm-hmm. use.
I think Jared's made out of mahogany.
At least from your neck up.
Could be.
Which what flavor of mahogany are you using for that?
Oh, genuine, sir. Only the freshest. I actually don't, on that last Versa that I made. I have a local hardwood store, like 15 minutes from my house. Oh. That's where I sourced that mahogany. And that happened to come off of like the offcuts section. So I don't actually know what type of mahogany that one was, but,
okay.
It's a nice looking grain structure. It sounds good. And yeah, so the bodies on the Versas are under 1.5 inches thick. Think like SG thickness mm-hmm. as far as the body goes. And there's a lot less hand carving that goes into those guitars, like compared to say like my Stella model, which has a German carved top. The Versa just has a 60-degree bevel ratted on the side, so it's kind of like one and done. You don't have to touch much up.
Nice.
So yeah, the idea was just to kind of make a guitar that is, I can make a little bit quicker, but still have that quality, still have the same look that is you can associate with my other models. And yeah, so that just got released this week. People are liking it so far on the old internet. So we'll see how it goes.
Right on. Nice.
I was going to ask about. I noticed that you're using a water-based lacquers. I want to get your take on that versus standard lacquers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I kind of in the last couple years made the switch to the water-based stuff. I love nitro. It's incredible. It looks very nice. I like the way it ages. But it's incredibly bad for you. It's incredibly bad for the environment. My shop is at my home,
Right.
so flammable. I'm not trying to blow up my residence,
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it. Is I didn't want to be, putting anybody at risk here at home or in the neighborhood even. And yeah, I didn't want to expose myself to stuff that I didn't necessarily have to. So I got kind of hip to the water-based alternatives out there. There's been a few builders that I reached out to for help with that. Florian from Millimetric Instruments.
Oh yeah,
Canada.
he was one of our first guys.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, so I reached out to him, questions about the water-based stuff because I noticed he was using it. He was super kind and answered all my questions that I might have about it. But yeah, there was a bit of a learning curve when it came to spraying it.
Right.
The thing with nitro is it's super easy to use and spray. It's almost like anybody can do it, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty forgiving. Yeah,
it's very forgiving. Yeah. I mean, you do have to worry about humidity and whatnot, but as far as the actual spraying process, it's not the hardest thing to spray by any means. But the water-based stuff was kind of odd when I first started spraying that. When it goes down, it looks like it's got like the worst orange peel you've ever seen. But that's actually what you're seeing is the water evaporating out of the finish itself.
Okay.
And that's kind of how it cures is the water evaporates off. And once the water is gone, you're left with your polyurethane or lacquer finish on the surface. So yeah, it was a bit of a learning curve, but I'm super happy that I did it. I mean, I'm really happy with my results that I'm getting from the stuff.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of builders have switched over to that, and even some repair shops have been doing that, and it's always interesting. I have most everyone says that it was a major switch over because if they're used to using lacquers or even enamels. It does have a different feel and different curing look.
Yeah, definitely. And then the positive to it is that, I mean, I can be done with a guitar in less than a week as far as the painting and finishing process goes. Whereas with nitro or something, I'd be having to wait 1 to 2 months sometimes just for that stuff to cure.
Nice.
To a point where, you're happy and ready to send it out without worrying about issues with the finish.
Stupid nitro.
I know, right? Nothing against nitro. I love it. If I could spray it, I would. Honestly, it feels and looks amazing.
I'm drinking a cup of it right now.
Excellent. Well, dude, we really appreciate you sharing your story and learning more about you and your fine guitars. Yet another solid builder who's making things at a price point that, not everything has to be the a super low price, but it's nice when some of them are, and especially if they look as good as these do. And we hope to run into you on the street someday. Maybe you're holding a guitar, and we say, "Hey, let me see that guitar, man."
Yeah, I mean, I don't walk anywhere without a guitar in my hand. So
Well, yeah,
it's bound to happen.
What's your deal? I'm a guitar maker. Duh.
Yeah, can't you tell, man? Come on.
That's been my voice for the show. I don't know why. I really don't. Anyways, so we're going to switch over to Big Jared. Mahogany Mongo.
That's me.
Do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your favorite part of the show. It's called Would You Rather? This week's Would You Rather is brought to us by Josh. And he decided on this week's Would You Rather, and it goes a little something like this.
Tony doesn't know this.
I
know.
It's going to be a complete surprise.
So, I'm going to keep this somewhat generic. Otherwise, I'll just screw it up. So, would you rather play a lower-end Gibson guitar, like a Les Paul Studio or a Gibson Sonics or something like that, through a Fender amp, a really nice higher-end Fender amp, like let's say an original Blackface, from the 60s, 50s and 60s. Or would you rather play a high-end Fender guitar, like maybe an original Blackguard from the 50s, or just maybe a nice custom shop model Fender guitar through a Gibson amp? And I am not really familiar with all the Gibson amp models because, let's face it, Gibson wasn't really known for their amps.
Tony?
So what would you rather do, man?
Tony needs to weigh in and give us a little bit of Gibson amp history here.
So there are some really coveted Gibson amps that were made in the 50s and 60s. Mostly they're tube models. They actually made amps back into the 20s and 30s. I think that they've got a kind of a sound of their own. Definitely not something that you'd expect out of a Fender or a Vox for that matter. They're their own little category. There was even a Les Paul amplifier model that went along with Les Paul guitars. So there are, they're not as common and not as commonly used, but there are people that will prefer that sound to just about anything else that's out there.
Interesting. John has one over at the studio.
Mm-hmm. Is it like a GA7 or something like that?
Yeah, it's that big beast. I know you've seen it. We plugged it in, and it was like crap, crap, crap. Whoa, wait, stop. And it sounded like glorious. And then he kept going, and it was crap, crap, crap.
That thing looks like it could have secret compartments in it.
It is
the way it's built.
Astoundingly heavy. It is beyond remarkably heavy. It's huge and heavy.
Yes.
Anyways, okay, so here's the deal, everybody. You're gonna play what is it, Jared?
A lower end Gibson model through a high end Fender amp, or a high end Fender guitar through a lower Gibson model, non-coveted Gibson amp.
Perfect. Tony Baloney, go for it.
I mean, I could go either way because I have no problem whatsoever with lower end Gibson models, whether it's a Melody Maker, a Junior, or whatever.
The old ones are good.
Yeah. That's I think that's the major difference. And an upper end Fender guitar, that doesn't necessarily make it better. Despite the fans of Gibson amps, I still prefer the sound out of a Fender amp, especially a Blackface. I'm going to go with option one with a lower end Gibson model through a really nice Fender amplifier.
All right.
Preferably a Vibrolux.
Jared.
Yeah, this is tough for me because I can go either way too. But traditionally, it's usually a Gibson going through a Fender amp rather than the other. Mm-hmm. So just because of that, I'm going to go with like a really nice custom shop Fender going through a working Gibson amp.
Operative word there is working.
Got to be working, huh?
One that you can still buy tubes for. So
okay,
I'm gonna go that way because Fender, in my opinion, Fender's American-made guitars are really good, fine instruments. They're still really good instruments.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go over to our guest, what would you do?
All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to go option one with Tony on that one. Play the lower end Gibson through a Fender amp. I'm just thinking about how many classic records were made on a vintage Fender Champ.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a sound you can't get away from if you're listening to anything from the last, 100 years, practically. Maybe 100's a little too far back, but
Not anymore.
Yeah.
but yeah,
we'll
as
say
far
the
as
last 50 years.
yeah, we'll go with 50. We'll cut that in half. But Gibson amps, I mean, I'm sure there was, plenty of records cut on a Gibson amp that maybe people don't boast about, but you don't hear about it as much. The tried and true Fender Champ is kind of where it's at for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Choose your poison.
now for whatever reason, because I get in my own way. I admit that I get in my own way, and so my natural instinct would be like, I want the thing that everybody doesn't take, because it's like, I want the Gibson, the good sound, the good Gibson amp, and or at least a working Gibson amp,
Right.
and a really nice Fender guitar, right?
Oh, a Stratocaster?
Well,
Telly. Get a Telly or a Jaguar.
yeah. I'm gonna go the give me a Gibson Sonics black with a black pickguard, and
Yes.
and I'll take an old black face.
There you go.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing
Yeah. That's a good combo.
with a non-working neck pickup.
There you go.
Who needs it?
All right.
That's what I'm doing. And Tony's like, dry heaves with the Sonics.
The gray and black
Yeah,
burst.
Nothing like plastic covered wood. to get the day going.
exactly. So this has been a rootin' tootin' bag of fun. We got a couple people to thank, Tony Baloney.
Would you be referring to our executive producers?
Yes, and then some.
Oh, and then the secondary superior executive producers. Is that correct?
Oh, there's always a bigger fish.
Well, wait, before we get there, I'm sure there is a group of listeners out there who have not heard about executive producers.
How can
And
I be one?
How can you be one? What is one? What comes with becoming an executive producer?
This is only a half-hour show, Tony.
I want you to go over to patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. And there's several levels that you can become a patron of this very podcast, The Guitar Knobs. Each level comes with its own bevy of fun prize packages.
Which are delayed to the postal system and all the nonsense going on right now. But anyways, you will get it.
Eventually, we'll all get through this. Todd, you'll be able to get to the post office. I have faith in you. But anyhow, you get stuff like barefoot buttons and T-shirts and stickers and pics and all kinds of great stuff, including giveaways and things like that we're going to be doing for our 4th anniversary year.
Yes, and we're going to have to catch up because of all the nonsense.
And yes, this is nonsense. But at the executive producer level, you get all that great stuff, but something else. And I can't put my finger on it, but Jared, I think you know it.
You get to have your name read on the thing.
Your name read on the thing. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to start with a very special group of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs. They wear a very special fez that indicates their commitment to the Guitar Knobs podcast. Without further ado, let's thank Jonathan Jerusik, Corey Nigro, David Kaminga, Cody Lane, Cody Foster, Sean S. and Tommy Manasco. But wait, I'm also going to give a tip of the fez to our regular executive producers. And I'm going to start. How do I want to do that? I'm going to start with our newest and work our way back. How's that sound? So, our newest is Matt Hart.
Hey, welcome to the thing.
How about James White, Brett Alexander, Justin Jones, Doug Gann, Tim Nowak, John Esterle, Chris Heidel, Brad Partridge, Tyler Bray, John Anglin, Anthony Lathrop, Johnny Knowles, Stefan Lamb, Michael Senchuk, Brian Robison, Ken Sayers, Michael Van Zant, Doug Christ, Darren Gregory, Chris Carney, John Daly, Martin Cliff, and Tom Barazin.
Hey, there they are.
Yes.
Did I fool you with that one, Todd?
Yes.
You thought I backed out, didn't you?
I did. I want to just give a shout out to Doug Gann. He's been a supporter for a long, long time. But I just wanted to say an extra special shout out.
May I please say something? Thank you. Cody Lane saw that I was still open and still going, and he purchased some pickups, and I just wanted to give him some gratitude for the support. So thanks,
That's
Cody.
nice.
Yeah.
He's a really good supporter, and he's
supporter.
always interacting. Yep.
Indeed. Josh, where can people find you on out there on the internet?
Yeah, hit up the old Google machine, Treetone Guitars. Likely that'll bring you right to the website, treetoneguitars.com. Instagram's always good, at Treetone Guitars.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. And Tony
Yes.
Maloney,
Yes.
where can people find you within
Let's say-
a 30-second description?
Within a 30-second description, just head over to pickguardian.com. You'll find a list of wares and things that I offer. And if there's something there that you don't see, just shoot me an email. It's very simple. I've been catching up with emails left and right during this pandemic. And so getting answers to questions very quickly. And if you want to see some of the projects we've been talking about, head over to Instagram and Pick Guardian and the number 1.
Perfect. Jared?
Yes, of course. I'm open. I'm running a discount. So head over to brandonwalmpickups.com and see what I have to offer. And if there's something there you're looking for that you don't see, please email me and we'll figure it out and we'll get it built for you. Thank you.
Perfect. Hey, you can shoot me a DM on IG. And if you don't know the lingo, then man, you're just not with it. But if you go to Instagram, you can send me a message. And that's at Guitar Knobs. Also, you can send an email, todd@theguitarknobs.com. And like Jared, I have fast and friendly and inexpensive service. So, everybody, we appreciate you joining our show. And we have plenty more to come. We want to thank Josh Forrest for joining our show. It was great to get to know you and learn about your guitars, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, same to you guys. I just want to add one more thing, too. If anyone gets in contact with me within the next, let's say, couple months, they mention the show, I'll give you 20% off a custom build.
Holy moly. 20% off a custom-built guitar. Are you joking?
$200. That's expensive.
You haven't laughed.
Awesome.
That's some cash right there. Yeah, save
Man.
a little bit of cash.
Wow.
All right. So, you guys, don't be silly. Get over there and check out these guitars. Get your 20% off. Mention the Guitar Knobs, and you got a wham bam thank you ma'am deal. And you can rock and roll. It's easy. Do it. That's awesome. That's a great way to end the show. Doggone it. Hey, everybody, have a great guitar weekend. Subscribe.
Yeah. Well, it's not the greatest weather.
Yeah, you'll have that.
I don't know how that affects our podcast, but
You're coming in pretty hot, Jared. You know that?
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to heat up this chicken patty in the microwave, and it's not totally heated. It said a minute 30, but it's not totally heated.
Well, that's probably because it's shitty outside.
I think you're right.
Newton's Law.
So
I had one more thing.
I think every time you talk,
I take
our
back every
internet
bad thing
signal
I
goes
said
down.
about the
Hey, this is Josh Forrest from Treetone Guitars. Excuse me.
You want to try that again? so you get your company
You're
right.
gonna say tree trunk.
Tree Trunk Guitars.
Well, Finn, I do like apple pie.
Cool.
Can I go get a drink of water?
It was worth it.
You're a robot, Tony. Tony, you're super crispy still, buddy. You like that?
Yeah, you're like the lady in Superman 3.
Again. Now I got to cut that out, you bozo.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.